Extremely complete presentation. He didn't bother to look at it. He just wanted to buy the destiny book. According to Dae-sung, a golden feather pen and a piece of paper appeared floating in the air. Hoi wrote for him to read. Portals have appeared in more than 90 countries except Korea, killing a third of the population. The number of the world is this and that. Reading that, he immediately stopped. Why? Except for Korea. Are these guys deliberately avoiding me? It was exactly as he thought. First, in faraway America. That day the sky was very clear. Everything was going on no different from daily activities. A young man had just said goodbye to his friend sitting in a small car. Before he had gone far, a huge monster jumped onto the hood of the car, transforming into the friend he had just said goodbye to, along with many people walking on the street staring blankly at the monster falling from the sky. Everyone was frozen by their fear. There were monsters. All those who survived the impact ran away. And running was the right decision. Because immediately afterward dozens of such huge monsters crashed down the street side of the flower shop embassy. Just one is enough to frighten people. Dozens of them are enough to make people running on the street feel that today will be their death anniversary next year. The portal suddenly opened in the sky, releasing a herd of monsters that fell like raindrops. On the same day, in the center of Tokyo, a similar group of monsters of such enormous size appeared. However, it was a group of four-eyed wolf killers. Not giants. They had the advantage of speed and ferocity. So the Japanese had to use ambushes everywhere. They are here. Detonate immediately. The booming sound resounds as the wolf killers set foot at the city intersections. Their speed is significantly reduced. Also partly because the explosives are camouflaged. Turn the page blue to block visibility. The wolves howled disoriented, then stopped right at the intersection, which was a great opportunity to start the operation to save Tokyo City. The hunters in the archery team immediately pulled out their weapons and aimed at them. Or more accurately, at the black shadows beneath the blue smoke that was creeping through each building. The arrows were all impregnated with aura, so once they pierced the wolves' flesh, they immediately made them howl in pain. However, their intelligence was not average. Very quickly there were wolf slayers who realized the arrow was shot from above. They suddenly jumped up, kicked over buildings to get high, and soon opened their mouths right above the head of an archer. He widened his eyes as he looked at death approaching him, but luckily the leader tightened his grip on the sword and unleashed a lightning strike that severed the wolf's head from his body. The archer who had just been saved quickly dodged when the wolf's head shot past his ear not far away. Realizing that he had just escaped death, he bowed and thanked him. Captain Tetsuzuka. But killing one made no sense. Tetsuzuka turned his head to look at the gate that had just opened in the sky of Tokyo, now full of falling lights below. If monsters keep coming out of the gate, Tokyo will die at this rate. In Washington, the United States was not much better. The streets were up and down. After the first attack, countless people were injured and died. The giant monster's huge foot stepped on it, only to with a crushing sound. No matter how solid the human body is, it will turn into a pile of shredded flesh under its feet. The monster thought it had taken over this area, so it clenched its fists and let out a long, entertaining roar, no different from a savage wild animal. Immediately, a point of light flashed through the monster's body, cutting it in half, thanks to the extremely sharp aura weapon of the black man who had just gone into battle with his teammates. He angrily cursed, "Damn it. Why did the portal appear when Ashland wasn't here? First we have to retreat first. We have to reunite with Ashland before we can counterattack." So the black man ordered the whole team to temporarily withdraw to Philadelphia. The current situation of resistance to portals around the world was being broadcast live to the Korean Hunter Guild because there were simply no portals to monitor. Everywhere is full of dangers except Korea, making the branch manager feel insecure. There's nothing strange about what the secretary next to me said. Countries are currently asking Korea for aid. They all know that this is the only country that is still safe. If right after sending reinforcements there, a gate suddenly appeared in Korea, we would have to give up and die. But if we don't help them, Korea will be criticized by every country. So he wondered whether he should send domestic hunters or not. Looking at Secretary Kim Ah-jang, The branch head asked where the S-rank hunters participating in the meeting were now. According to the information she had, Japanese Teihikaraito hunter and Chinese Rongwon hunter were fighting on the front lines with fighter jets. It was expected that American and European hunters would also join soon. Join the fighting force. Not knowing what to do, suddenly the phone in his pocket rang. Seeing the caller's name was Leader Sung Chan-ho. Suddenly his mind felt like sunlight shining through the clouds. On the other end of the phone, Chan-ho's voice was clear. Please summon all S-rank hunters. Dae-sung's gang will hold a meeting. Korea seems to be the most peaceful place in the world. At this time people go back and forth on the old streets to shop and travel. Mixed with that atmosphere is Aslan's flamboyant face. Always compliment this place so beautiful. That place so good. He continuously took pictures of himself in front of the once-in-a-lifetime scene in Bukchon Hazong village. And with that outstanding interface, passers-by quickly discovered that he was America's Aslan. And isn't America in a period of crisis? What is he still doing here? Hearing people comment about him, Aslan didn't feel embarrassed at all and turned around and called two people to come take a photo for him here. Both young men contorted their faces and agreed. Although it was unclear why Aslan appeared here. If he did not agree, he might as well have punched him to death. Aslan's dirty, flashy face shot hearts. But these guys didn't dare to admit it. They just wanted to finish taking the picture and get out of here quickly. In the Dae-sung building, the atmosphere was unusually quiet at this time. On the left were three S-rank hunters sitting next to the head of the Seoul Hunter Association branch. On the opposite side were all the people of Dae-sung's gang, and of course sitting between the two groups of people was the gray hair of a 28-year-old young man. As soon as he sat down, Dae-sung hated it and declared, "Now we will start discussing how to stomp on those aliens." After hearing Dae-sung's statement, for some reason the atmosphere in the room seemed quieter than usual. It took a while for Chan-ho to hesitantly speak up. "Did you just say that you resurrected the Titan?" Next, the branch head added with a questioning look. "So what you mean is that their main purpose is to use humans? Was it a sacrifice to create the gates?" Nodding his striking white hair, Dae-sung concluded that the gate was a shrine and people were considered sacrifices to offer to that shrine. Sitting right on the left, Chong-sik asked, "So once enough sacrifices have been made, will the Titan be revived?" Talking more deeply about this, Haran said, "Even if we want to prevent it, we can only support one country at most. Not to mention the time and distance to travel." A clicking sound was heard when the cube was placed on the table. Han Zan was introducing to everyone. "This thing is called a cube gate. The owner of the orphanage hopes he has never seen this thing before. He just feels that its appearance resembles the Supreme Protector." Han Zan explained, "This thing is the key to the shrine. It was Hunter Dae-sung who gave it to me. Dr. Park Dong-hyuk and I researched its use. And we successfully transformed it into an instant infusion portal. Leader Wang Junyoung tested it and reached several predetermined locations." Sitting next to him, Cho Young added that the leader said recently he needed to go to some countries because of important work. Each person pursued a thought. Chong-sik did not say another word. But he wondered how far Han Dae-sung could see. Initially, Ha Jin wanted to gather a number of first-class hunters from other gangs to go with him. But Han Zan did not agree. This portal cannot currently bring many people at the same time. The current maximum number of people is 7. 7 wasn't a big number. So the branch chief didn't think this would be much help. Unless all S-rank hunters were present. After he finished speaking, he surprised himself with his guess. Dae-sung smiled and affirmed that what Trong Kai-kwik said was correct. "Everyone present here including me will also go." He quickly protested. "No way. If so then Korea would face the risk of being attacked." Dae-sung had already prepared for that. But before he could say anything, he saw the notice board appear. "Out before your eyes. The soul exchange recording is recorded on it, changing the location of the soul of the target and the user. However, the greater the distance, the higher the mana and cooldown time will be." Chan-ho couldn't see that sign. But he knew this skill. So he immediately introduced it to everyone. "Last time at the research center, my friend suddenly possessed a strange ability. When it's time to use it, I just have to say it. My ability is if I sent director Sung Chan-ho to the meeting area. Accident. Then I can immediately use this skill to bring him home. The people on the left gasped. Did he still have this kind of domineering ability? Not unexpected. Completely on another level. The right-hand side was also surprised. But some people showed it. Others didn't. Dae-sung's ability truly has no end. Basically, this capacity has solved the situation posed by the branch head. So if used, both international aid and domestic security will be guaranteed. This Dae-sung could shoot an arrow and still hit 2 targets. So he was determined to slap his hands on the table and deploy. After the discussion, we were ready to get to work. But at this moment Sol Yeon raised her hand, excitedly calling out to Master. Aren't you planning on naming our group? Like Avenger. As soon as she heard that childish name, Ha Jin on the other side immediately opened her mouth. The whole meeting she only thought about it like that. Dae-sung found it annoying to the point of arguing when these two girls started arguing. But he admitted that our group also needs a real name. So whoever comes up with something can say it. Seizing the opportunity, the witch immediately came up with an idea. There's been a lot of singing on the internet lately. So instead of Song Hunter, can we change to Tree Cat? Cho Young didn't say a word, but found the tree cat to be adorable. It's just that the atmosphere in the meeting room was kind of weird. Besides Sol Yeon, who was howling, no one followed, so she didn't dare to say anything. Dae-sung didn't want him to lose interest, so he just quickly sent everyone off to work. It wasn't that important, so let's just go, because no one objected, so just like that the whole team was labeled the Tree Cat. At that time in China's Shandong province, the sky was darker than usual because a few gates had released a flock of crazy locusts into the heart of the city. They were approaching the place where the human army was arrayed. Everyone held physical weapons in their hands. And there was no sign of any Aura hunters. Opening fire. On command, thousands of arrows were shot down at the crazy locusts. But other than stabbing into the thick skin like a porcupine, there was no damage done to them at all. The whole herd ran towards the humans in retaliation. And at that size any vanguard would have been left sweating. Although they were very scared, there was no way to run. Because there was a lack of manpower everywhere. So they had to stay in place and shout. If they were good, they would rush in. But those who talk are really rude. There's nothing shy about it. Dozens of ferocious cattle, with their weapons, pressed straight into a group of people less than half their size. With every swing of the axe they could cut off a human or two. Just as the whole army was about to be beaten, suddenly a foot jumped on their heads. A seductive female body flew in the air, with a sharp spear in hand. Kaiun Rongwon powerfully lowered her weapon and used the heavenly dragon technique, sending 4 pearls flying at once. She landed in front of the soldiers and was temporarily safe. However, here there was only Kaiun Rongwon who was awakened, so she had to scream to maintain morale, not to retreat. The Chinese warriors quickly advanced, so they risked their lives and rushed forward loudly following the orders of leader Kaiun. Confronting the extremely ferocious group of 2 horns on the opposite side. The situation was quickly broadcast to Jinjiang. Everywhere were the ferocious and bloodthirsty images of monsters released from the space portal. With such a huge number, even Jinjiang, far away, felt heavy pressure. Could it be that the Chinese people were just destroyed like that? At that moment, the fairy secretary came and softly called. The Korean Association said that they would send 7 S-rank hunters with some conditions. He was surprised to know right away. Not even the World Hunter Association could help with this situation, let alone Korea. On the board are the 3 letters KHA, which stands for Tree Hunters Association. They are explaining that the current situation is urgent and they can still send 6 S-rank hunters, with the temporary nickname of Tree Hunters. The English word K includes Hunter Han Dae-sung. Their condition is only one. Our hunters must have full ownership of the items and ET cores of the monsters that our hunters defeated. If we are careful, we will make sure to immediately send reinforcements via Korea's instant teleportation technology. How could such a condition be unacceptable? Very quickly, the hunter management side in Seoul received news that the Chinese, Japanese and Indian associations had approved the conditions. Everything was going exactly as planned. He put his hand in his pocket and told his secretary to quickly report to the tree hunters. It's okay to say tree hunter. But who in the world would name it tree cat is truly nonsense. The government still works for a few seconds and minutes. But on the streets of China right now there is smoke and dust and corpses. People were piled everywhere. Within 50 meters around this group of buffalo monsters, there was only Kai-eun Rongwon alone with her spear. Although she was injured a little, her eyes were still as determined as before. I'm here. I'm Kai-eun Dongwon, a Chinese hunter. If you're good, come in. These guys didn't need to challenge. They held axes and spears and rushed towards Rongwon. She had no way to retreat anymore. Just pointed her weapon straight at them. Slowly living and dying. Either way she was already drowning. So much strength. Suddenly there was a slash across the body of the dream ape, cutting it in two. Rongwon's shocked eyes looked at it. It wasn't her that had done it. She had already seen two halves of that muscular ape, split into two. The witch girl and the tree cat squad arrived. In a very eye-catching blue outfit. Dae-sung didn't care much about Seo Yeon's introduction. He pointed up excitedly. There's a lot of beef here. Too much. They arrived when Rongwon was the only one left holding the citadel. Suddenly, she felt a cool healing aura covering her entire body. Before she could understand anything, she saw someone's shadow passing by. Pass by here lightly. Rongwon could only look back slowly. The speed was too fast. And saw a beautiful female face passing by him. It was Ha Jin using aura to heal her. By the way, kindly remind me. Just rest. Leave the rest to us. Seo Yeon ignored her previous excitement and immediately got to work. She immediately used the magic cake spell to create a layer of mud right under the claw's feet, immediately causing their speed to slow down. Completely stagnant. As if he had entered a real swamp. In front of him was Cho Young's massive demonic weapon fired continuously to hit the skin as hard as the copper and iron walls of the crazy buffaloes. Some can pierce people, some only infuriate them further. So Chong-sik is here to finish off with his tiger claw attack, which can cut this pile of meat and beef into small pieces. As soon as he passed by, leaving behind a beautiful stream of light, he saw Seo Dong-chul approaching with his fist ready in his hand. His thunderbolt emitted electric light at extremely high pressure, hitting straight at the crazy locusts, placed next to each other, causing them to explode like thunder had just fallen from the sky. With a few powerful combinations, the upper part of the crazy buffalo exploded and shattered, along with the earth and rocks under their feet making loud waves. After walking for a while, I saw countless bodies lying across the path. But there were so many bodies that it was impossible to collect ET cores by hand. Hearing small clicking sounds, a spider made with an aura machine groped up the frozen chest of a continent. The machine stuck its proboscis straight into it, seeing more or less streaks of blood on each spider, brought back an energy core, storing it in Han Zan's box. His job is generally easy because the common purpose of all is to solve the ET resource problem through gathering supplies. While he was chilling with the huge amount of cores brought back, suddenly he heard a loud explosion behind him. When he turned around, he saw a two-horned ape. But it looked more powerful. It was an S-rank monster named Wuji Nose, appearing to attack him with a burning fire at his feet. Just looking at it, he knew it was evil. Chong-sik and Dong-chul mumbled and asked each other, "What is that giant fire?" It said no. Wuji Nose slammed his stone axe into the ground, creating an explosion accompanied by fire like a forest fire that gradually licked the feet of the two S-rank hunters over there. They had to avoid it quickly because Wuganaz's range was extremely large. It gradually spread through the entire strait, and if Haran didn't quickly use her barrier, she was afraid the two girls next to her would disappear. Chong-sik and Dong-chul were not stupid enough to stand outside as guards. They both quickly appeared behind Cho Young, trying to find a way to slowly solve the problem. If they kept showing their faces, they would be turned into trouble. Cho Young held it with one hand, grabbed his shield, looked back and called, "Everyone should first prepare for the attack." But Rongwon doesn't agree. "Everyone should step back. My entire team was completely destroyed by that monster." As soon as she finished speaking, She looked to her left and saw a young man standing between two curtains without the slightest fear. Who else but Dae-sung was carrying his black dragon knife challengingly. Ah, it seems like you don't know what beef around a fire is like. Rongwon was shocked. She had only heard of Han Dae-sung's reputation but had never seen him in battle with her own eyes. At this moment, there was only a streak of light in front of her eyes. As he pointed his knife straight and rushed back, opponent side, Unos's red eyes sparkled with both bloodlust and excitement, as a human who was not afraid of death was rushing towards him. It swung down the stone axe and saw fire erupt when it collided directly with Dae-sung's black dragon sword. Unos's big hand immediately sucked up all the fire that spewed out from the sword. Then laughed with delight. You are so stupid to use fire to attack me. It only makes me stronger. Is that so? Dae-sung made a face like he was talking to an idiot. His fire was not a normal fire. Right? The other Unos didn't know. He just felt that this person was looking down on him. So he gave Dae-sung a strong hand and sent him flying back, hitting a 7-story building about 100 meters away, continuing to swing the axe to kill all the rest. It once again declared, I am Unos, the true ruler of the monsters. You are just an ant to me. In the first line of defense, Cho Young continuously fired a series of ice bullets to freeze Unos's upper body. But when her bullets reached this crazy buffalo, she had not even touched a single hair of its fur. Immediately evaporated into steam because the temperature of the fire surrounding Unos was too high. Unexpectedly, her bullets had disappeared before touching that monster. She was shocked to realize that Uno's entire body was now enveloped in flames. It's like a burning coal that wants to melt everyone here. But with Dae-sung here, who would allow him to do that? He mumbled and read, swapping domains. And soon Unos's huge body disappeared from the Chinese road. Chong-sik was completely surprised. Where did they go? The oppa next to him did something interesting like that. That kid Han Dae-sung must have taken that giant thing away. Sure enough, when he opened his eyes again, Unos realized he had been transported to a completely different space. This was no longer the land of China, so he could no longer do whatever he wanted. In front of him, there was only one human who had released mana. The system panel flashed to let him know that all of the Supreme Being's mana had been completely released. A confident look appeared on Dae-sung's face as he pulled out the sword. The black dragon blade came out again. This piece of trash will die in just one hit from me, and you still dare to raise your voice here. When the sword is swung down to create a long slash accompanied by evil energy, Dae-sung will let this monster know what the wrath of the Black Firelord is like. A terrible rushing sound erupted right above the temple, creating giant aftershocks that blew away Ugnos's entire huge form. As the last pieces of it vanished into thin air, it remained undeterred. What kind of fire is this? Black fire has never been seen before and has already been destroyed. The system is waiting for Dae-sung, who has just killed someone, and immediately jumps out to announce that you have received an S-Class ET. Ugnos's fire to upgrade your weapon. The current achievement score is 1 million points. The goal now is to destroy the soul collectors at the shrine. Current progress is over 99%. When reaching all progress can be purchased with achievement points. Reading and rereading for a while, Dae-sung pondered. I probably have to unlock the Demon King before that Titan revives. But do I have to spend all my achievement points? In front of a gate that no longer has monsters coming out. The souls who have just been killed are now trying to find a way out of an antique that specializes in sucking the souls of the dead. The young man, dressed in a shabby outfit, was holding a large bowl, laughing. This is the first time I have collected so many souls. Now I will have an eternal life. I am extremely excited. Degree. However, the boy immediately received a knife that pierced the cage from back to front, and Dae-sung put his murderous face in his ear and whispered what you traitor expected. Having been slashed so painfully, the hand holding the soul-collecting bowl was still clamped as tightly as possible. That guy roared in pain. Titan, please accept this sacrifice. Suddenly, the space in front of Dae-sung's eyes completely changed into a dark place. He clearly saw that right above the offered bowl was a large hand preparing to strike down. That thing didn't break. It just opened up. then sucked out all the souls contained in that traitor's bowl. Once all the souls touched the palm of his hand, he held it tightly and immediately exploded. Sound. Like crushing the entire soul and then gradually sinking into the thick black night. Hearing the thumping sound as if footsteps were walking farther and farther away. Dae-sung grumbled unhappily. Hey, let's finish talking and then you can eat whatever you want. There was no response from the other side. He swung his black dragon sword hard, creating a slash like a scythe that rushed forward. It was clear that something next to the traitor had been slashed. It made a curling sound but no other reaction was seen. What is that? Doesn't it have any effect? Dae-sung stared in surprise at the space in front of him. A moment later he saw a large hand pointing 2 thumbs and forefingers towards the kneeling traitor. That person did not touch the scoundrel, but only used his fingertips to gently tap the space above his head. Just like that, tears flowed endlessly, trembling and thanking him for his tolerance. In the real world, when the bowl clanged to the ground, Dae-sung felt a disturbance in the air around him. It's hard to believe what just happened. Could it be that the domain was changed when he received the tribute? The important thing is that the guy who had just sacrificed his soul began to have strange changes in his body. His whole body grew sharp spikes like an ancient horror, and turned around to glare at Dae-sung. How dare you touch me? Titan's essence. With such power he crows loudly. You are nothing more or less than an earthworm before my eyes. Having said that, with his non-human feet, he rushed towards Dae-sung to use his newly sharpened claws to hit him in the face. However, Dae-sung disappeared immediately, then moved to the right to avoid the attack so simply, making the other guy crazy. You're quite a worm, right? Before he realized where Dae-sung was, his hideous face was grabbed by his hand. Then Dae-sung jumped up, pressing that hideous guy to the concrete floor on the ground, making a loud noise. The earth and rocks echoed back, and he clenched his fists with pleasure. First I'll use this fist to shut you up. It's said that one of his punches is equal to dozens of ordinary people's punches. The rumbling sound echoed continuously, but Dae-sung did not aim at the face but only at the lips of this monstrous name. Punching until this traitor's whole body trembled, with his lips swollen as if they had just been injected with silicone. He mumbled and said something in English. Something like he was proud of himself. Even if he died, he would revive. Unfortunately, when Dae-sung used to go to school, he didn't get a bad grade in English. So he immediately grabbed his head and asked, "Do you want to go back to that Titan's place to be revived? I know there is a very suitable place for those Titans. Scum like you, prepare yourself." There was an evil smile on his face, making that guy with a swollen beak feel uneasy. In a moment, when I looked back, I saw the surrounding landscape change into a prison, where there was a muscular brother standing next to his assistant who was lying upright on a stone table. Just in time to finish dealing with that guy. Now let's add another guy to entertain us. When Dae-sung was closing his eyes and sending the traitor back to the area of suffering, 2 short-haired girls happily ran to report. Master, the gate has been resolved. There is nothing left for the group to do. So I went to ask him what the next plan was. Dong Chul was so familiar with Dae-sung's strength that he just put his brother's shoulder on his shoulder and told him. Hey, what did I tell you? Don't worry about Han Dae-sung. Through this incident, Chang-sik also had to admit that he was a monster. Rongwon's current thoughts are similar. There is no way he could confront that monster alone. Having too much free time caused an argument. As soon as Haran opened her mouth to ask if he was injured anywhere, Sol Yeon immediately scolded her and told her to take care of herself. Ignoring the gossiping crowd, Dae-sung will announce how the current strategy has been changed. From now on, I will deal with all the bosses while you guys focus on rescuing the other hunters because you have to be quick to survive. Not only Han Jan but Chang-sik was also very surprised. He wanted others to focus on rescuing the hunter while he handled the boss himself. Right now Dae-sung no longer cares about what other people think or has to explain to anyone because simply in his current thinking, he definitely cannot let that guy revive. And wherever there are Dae-sung's footprints, there will be Zan Chil's teeth marks. He waved his arms on his live broadcast. Breaking news. Everyone, holding the mouse. Zhan Chil introduced that he had received a secret source provided by Dae Sung, which was the image of fierce fighting in China, side by side with the Hunter Rongwon of that country. Of course, Chinese television can't go there to let children from other countries watch. So netizens are extremely shocked. Why do our country's hunters ignore our country's? Making a cute appearance, Zhan Chil introduced. This is a tree cat special force established to save the world. I don't understand how those people sounded like a gay cat. Why did they give it such a gay name? Some people immediately commented against it. What a strange name. Dad. On the news they call it tree hunter. People also say that after solving the gates in China and India, they will move to Europe. Suddenly Zhan Chil feels suspicious. Isn't he a tree cat but a tree hunter? Huh? Again? I clearly heard Sung Chan Ho say that. To verify what he heard, Zhan Chil immediately turned on the news and saw that the TV was currently reporting on real tree hunters. These people were gathered to deal with S-rank gates all over the world. Now all the gates in China and India have been resolved. They are currently heading to Europe. This campaign is led by Hunter Han Dae Sung, who has gathered all the S-rank hunters in Korea. Just like what netizens said, nothing can escape the eyes of the people behind the keyboard, while the whole world is busy fighting against the invasion of monsters. In the black hidden area inside a gate, there are no other monsters at this time. Countless tents are set up nearby. High-tech equipment is protected and returned by U.S. military forces. A yellow head poked out from the gate, like a witch. Turned out to be the famous Aslan of America. He put his hands in his pockets, walked straight into the large barracks in the center, leisurely receiving the salutes of the guards. It's just that. It seems like no one wants to welcome the association president's younger brother who suddenly came here. Aslan knew that, so as soon as he appeared, he immediately asked, "Where is my brother?" In the dance hall set up inside the barracks, there were hundreds of people wearing flying masks shaking with all kinds of alcohol and flashing lights. The guards quickly came to tell Darren about the appearance of his uninvited brother. At first he was surprised, but then he saw the handsome face of his younger brother who was drinking not far away. Just as expected, other dimensions are not so beautiful. Find a comfortable place for yourself to sit. Aslan sat down. He shook his glass of wine to greet his brother who had just arrived. If we don't leave quickly, won't we be in big trouble? Darren didn't understand what my brother said. If you ask the opposite. What do you mean? While America is drinking and partying. In Tokyo right now dozens of columns of smoke are both black and dark after the recent fierce battle. Houses and buildings are in ruins. And there are many bodies of people wearing combat uniforms. Fight is dead, not making this white-haired brother wearing a demon mask falter at all. He still pointed his sword forward. Teshika turned around and shouted orders to the wounded troops behind him. The advance team will retreat. Everyone, retreat to defensive line number 3. They immediately helped each other run away, leaving Teshika alone on the battlefield because no one was more capable of fighting than him. Knowing that he had to stay to survive. But before he could fight, Teshika saw that his life was over. As he moved his teammate Damashaki, he cried endlessly, "Oh, leader, if you stay, you will surely die." While the whole world was fighting, kneeling beneath the giant stone statue was Karamis who created it all. Behind him was the small figure of Karina also kneeling to report. "Monk, the temple we built is gradually collapsing. The Demon King Nebula is sweeping everywhere." As soon as he heard the name Nebula, Monk Rami's eyes lit up with hatred. He heard a report from behind that seemed like the space shrine had been turned into an instant transmission portal. He pondered slowly as if to digest the information that his subordinates had just reported. After a moment, he jumped up to teach, grabbed his wooden staff and turned around to order. "Send a supervisor from the south of Azar to the temple. Space has not collapsed yet and let him buy time there. Once the Titan's meal is over, then it will be their end." The people in the Japanese combat team ran for their lives, no longer paying attention to what was happening behind them. Masaki just hugged a teammate and tried his best to run for both of them. Suddenly, she was stunned to realize that a red light was flashing right in front of her eyes. A huge red gate exactly like the gate that had released the monsters that appeared before her. But unfortunately from there, no buffalo head and horse face appeared. But Dong Chol's blonde hair and low-cut neckline. Even though the two guys were very handsome, their demeanor when they came out was strange. Each of them clutching his stomach and vomiting. Looking exhausted. All because of building a teleportation space. Sol Yian wasn't much better either. As soon as she came out, she saw her spinning in confusion. Her body staggering backwards. If Cho Young hadn't held her back, this witch would have fallen to the ground. However, the girl didn't look much better. To be honest, even Han Ul felt unbearably dizzy because of the high-pitched spatial waves inside the teleportation gate. Unable to form words in his mouth, it was Haren's voice telling everyone to wake up quickly. After enough hunter squads appeared, Dae Sung loomed last with a disparaging tone. It's cramped. It's too weak. Should I be a new hunter squad? As soon as Masaki saw his white hair and that annoying style, he immediately recognized it as Han Dae Sung. But why did he appear here? Suddenly you heard on the radio an announcement from the General Command. Korean hunters will use the teleportation portal to support everyone. I repeat, Korean hunters will use the teleportation portal to support everyone. People. She temporarily left the distraught teammate she had made for a while and ran straight to Dae Sung, pouring a stream of Japanese into his face. Ta Senzama, Tetsuka, Dansho, Onagai, Shimasu, finishing a long sentence. Masaki bowed in front of him, making Dae Sung wonder what the hell he was doing. He didn't learn English. He didn't learn Japanese. It's because this god spent 80 years in hell. So he can't grasp that technology. The little witch next to her leaned forward to tell the owner. Please quickly turn on the automatic translation device. And she's asking you to save Captain Tetsuka and bring him back safely. After glancing at the person who had just asked him for help, Dae Sung without a word apparated and disappeared right in front of Masaki, leaving behind a startled girl. Luckily in this team there is Sol Yian who is a bit diplomatic. She raised a like and used Japanese to shoot at Masaki. Meaning you're in luck. My master Dae Sung is super strong. Always. It was as if she had met a savior. Just hearing that made her tears flow. Then she added another Japanese sentence. Arigato gozaimasu. In front of Tetsuka now was a subordinate lying in the wolf's mouth, screaming for someone to save him. But unfortunately he couldn't help himself. The black-haired woman could only stand next to the poor people, breathing hard and watching some people being eaten by monsters. Tetsuka returned to his normal human form tiredly. It seemed like his aura was exhausted so he couldn't transform. He was breathing heavily. His eyes were sunken as if he was about to faint. But because he was exhausted, he did not run away. So he quickly became the next target of the wolf killer's attack. They stomped their feet down hard, then looked at Tetsuka with longing. Whoever was the strongest in the group just now will die much more unsightly than the others. Because he knew that, Tetsuka just closed his eyes and waited for death. But could not hope for anything more. As soon as the wolf's mouth full of jagged teeth opened, ready to bite, it immediately received a slash from somewhere, killing it on both heads at the same time. The rumbling sound of the giant head colliding with the ground brought Tetsuka back to reality. When he opened his eyes, he saw the figure of a white-haired young man in a tight suit, swinging a strange sword to cut off his head. 2 wolf slayers. Having slashed 2 wolf slayers at once was too terrible. That person even looked at Tetsuka with murderous eyes. This person had of course met him before. But Han Dae Sung's current demeanor was completely different from the person Tetsuka met at the hunter meeting in Korea that day. He simply asked, "Hey, can I go in Korean?" But because the translator device was broken, I couldn't understand what this guy was saying. Suddenly Tetsuka shouted loudly in Japanese, a sentence Dae Sung did not understand, but looking at his expression, it seemed like something dangerous was happening. As soon as he turned around, the young man didn't see any monsters at all, but an entire train flying in the air, about to hit his face. As soon as the first carriage hit the ground, it exploded, causing all the carriages behind to instantly turn into ashes. However, both Tetsuka and Dae Sung had teleported not far away, and were now standing in flames. Suddenly through the thick smoke was a blue sphere that looked like a leather ball, rushing towards Dae Sung's cold face. This time, He didn't bother to avoid it. Just propped himself up with one leg as a support. His right foot hitting that guy like he was playing soccer. With just a simple stroke of muscle. The ball flew back at the same speed as a meteorite falling to the ground. From which a half-green, half-dark-skinned giant burst open. Looking at it, Dae-sung realized that the guy came from another world. So he was more cautious than usual. Stomping his foot down to gain momentum. Dae-sung rushed back up with the black dragon sword. Preparing to collide directly with that giant who liked to pretend to be a ball. This time, it no longer disguised itself but used its giant fist to strike down at Dae-sung. Digging a straight line and launching it back up. It's unclear how the two collided in the air, but the place exploded into a giant ball of fire. The concussion blew away in all directions. And then there were 3 or 4 more loud explosions. Adding to the impact. The terrifying effect for Tejuka is below. Without an inch of iron in his hand. This brother could only use his hand to cover his face to reduce dust. When he opened his eyes, in front of Tejuka was a scene that he never thought he could see in his entire life. The small white-haired human faced the fat monster without the slightest fear. Dae-sung was not afraid but he felt angry. How is this pig so strong? Above the strong body is a face like an angry child. It opened its mouth wide and screamed the word eat and then drank again. With each scream, the unusually large head began to take on the shape of a shark preparing to hunt. Glaring at that thing, Dae-sung mentally called out to the altar to prepare to uproot this monster to the drudgery. Who would have thought that the system would jump out early? Not late, late. To report that it could not change the domain because the target's weight exceeded the domain change limit. At this point, I can say yes,